Hello friends, welcome to AI Flux. So whether you make content on YouTube, you write on Substack, or you write books to put on Amazon, AI is a hugely impactful tool to make this faster and just generally improve your output by, 6x. And a lot has changed in the last year. For instance, Amazon now limits how many books you can actually publish on their platform because so many people were just writing stuff with AI. Most of Substack kind of just looked like this. There are people who have actually made hundreds of thousands of dollars a month by just creating content with AI and blasting it onto the internet. And what's interesting is Jake Ward, someone I follow on Twitter, has actually compiled some data to show that very recently, in kind of the end of the summer of 2023, Google has started to take measures into their own hands that start to limit the throughput of this content. And we're not really sure if they're favoring their own AI or if they're just looking at AI content in general and basically marking it down as lower quality content. But it looks like we're starting to see sort of mitigations for this. And for the last year, a lot of the people who have said we should decelerate or that we should kind of curb this always were painting this picture that the internet would be ruined with AI content. And although AI content detectors still struggle, whether it's images or text, I think the rules going forward will be very, very interesting, especially when it comes to making content. And more importantly, I think there are actually some really interesting implications with YouTube, because if you're making YouTube content, how you do it really matters. So let's get into it. The sort of case study here I want to go over, or some of the data that's backing this, is by Jake Ward. So he works on digital marketing and kind of growth scaling for companies, whether it's ads, or content, etc. And he's had some really great posts covering kind of the proliferation of AI, initially showing how much money people were making by doing this. Some of the just blasting AI content onto the internet I don't really agree with, but people made money with it. And what's interesting is that huge edge changed just in the last few weeks. So first I want to show you this chart. So basically this is a chart of someone who is producing a ton of written content that was made by AI. So it wasn't about AI, but it was clearly kind of bottom of the barrel garbage, like travel articles or articles about like how to clean your flashlight. And they were making so much of this, and the idea was just getting throughput with Google Ads and on a number of other platforms. And as you can see, they went from 300,000 plus impressions in July, all the way down to 216 impressions in October. And if you've been on YouTube long enough, you've made YouTube videos, or if you've bought Google Ads, you'll know that Google is actually really, really good at understanding what is what they call organic traffic and what is bot traffic. So generally speaking, if you're looking at data from Google, you can assume that this is not being artificially kind of messed with to look a certain way. So the question is, why is this happening? Does it probably also carry over into YouTube? And if we now know this, and you're making content like this, how can you use this information to actually make sure that your strategies still work? What's curious is that this is an AI site. So Jake says here they had 300,000 plus organic traffic per month. They're now down to 216, which you might as well call it zero. And this is a pretty interesting data set because they actually published 69,000 nice articles. What's also nuts is their peak traffic used to be even higher than this at 600,000 plus impressions per month. Now, they were finally hit by this helpful content update, which actually was installed in August 2022 and clearly was tuned basically last month. So the question is all this AI content bad, or is it just seen as bad by Google generally? And what's interesting is Jake found that this wasn't exactly the case. So he's also been using AI in SEO campaigns. I don't do a lot of SEO, but I know people who've done this. And obviously there are plenty of grifters on YouTube who will say, oh yeah, use AI, just make ads with it and you'll make tons of money, which to be clear, you shouldn't do. But yeah, so you can still drive traffic and use AI tools to make your workflows go faster. But there are better ways to do this that won't kind of mess with what you're actually getting from a conversion standpoint. The two telltale signs of this are low quality AI content and just not really trying. So for instance, these are actually YouTube videos, and YouTube AI content has been a big deal. And I've actually been working on a video for some time, actually uncovering some of the workflows that people are using to copy YouTube content. And what's funny is this has never really worked, but this is a great example of why funneling from this doesn't work. So for instance, these are videos like how many Pringles can fit in a big can, and then doing it as shorts, kind of this low quality shot content, which again is sometimes used to drive traffic to blog posts or videos. I don't think this really works. It's a strategy I don't endorse. And their page, which basically links these 70,000 articles, is just super low quality. I mean, they had lots of duplicates. So for instance, they have hundreds of these Pringle ones, and they're all predicated on answering questions. And I think what this Google algorithm is mostly looking at is consistency. And you can tell Google is prioritizing this because now in the latest Bard update, you can actually backtest what Bard has created by clicking a little Google button, and it'll try to Google and then compare your results in Google to what Bard created. And it'll give you kind of a scoring of how good it thinks it did, which is kind of cool because it's sort of Google showing that they're really trying to improve and are trying to make their information as right as possible. Now, what's funny here is within these questions asking how tall a can of Pringles is, there are like 6 different answers, all of which are basically wrong. Of course, this is basically an advertisement. This article, this tweet is basically an advertisement for Byword AI, basically saying it's better. They're pretty much saying, look, like if you use Byword, you'll get better execution. I'm not endorsing Byword. I've never actually used it. So it comes down to picking higher quality content that actually drives value. So this could be an analysis of a podcast. It could be an analysis of a geopolitical situation or historical facts. And then the execution is really what it comes down to. So this is basically saying like Google only wants to show people stuff that has been executed relatively well and that provides value that you maybe can't find elsewhere. So basic facts basically aren't going to mean much to Google, and Google is not going to see those as very valuable. Also, again, I'm not endorsing Byword, but this is another example of someone who through September has still been able to improve a lot of traffic. And you can tell that they have lots of duplicates here. They have outputs that don't really answer a query from a search, which again is kind of what Google has been optimizing for the last 2 decades. And controlling word count, curiously, is something that's also very important. The other thing that I think a lot of people do on YouTube that is a miss is they target high volume keywords that aren't really relative to their explicit videos. What's interesting is when just a few of these issues are fixed, so basically these 4 issues here, so duplicate articles, outputs that don't really reach anything clear, they had a huge increase in traffic. And this is very different from that last sort of AI article, Puppy Mill. And it's weird and sort of, I hate to say this, but the SEO rules really work, and they work on YouTube as well. And of course, my AI channel here is one of my smaller channels, but I think it's pretty interesting. And basically the idea is, don't just cannibalize content and do this, because then your traffic, even on YouTube, might also do this. So definitely follow Jake. My biggest analysis here is that all of this directly carries over into YouTube, because to think that Google is applying different strategies and kind of filtering techniques to YouTube descriptions, titles, comments, etc. In your YouTube content and Google itself, those are actually very similar. Like, why wouldn't Google reuse this, right? So when you see people that are saying, oh yeah, just like automate the titles and just automate the descriptions, or take text from Bard and put it into a description, I think using these tools is great, but make sure that it reads well to you. Still do a final read of everything that you create. I think, in my writing, my rule is I never publish anything that I haven't read through entirely at least twice. And it takes time, but every time I do a full read through, I make sure it sounds cohesive. I make sure it sounds like something that people would find value in. And generally speaking, I think that rule should apply to AI tools as well. And it's why you should still kind of learn how to write without AI initially, and then once you have a real flow, maybe if you have a fine-tuned model of your own writing, these rules would apply less. But yeah, so I really wanted to go over this quickly. I think there have been some people in the AI space that have been saying, oh yeah, like my throughput has been different. And this may be the case, but yeah, I think in terms of like using AI to create a keyword-rich description for your video, thinking that would be better, or manipulating the transcript of a video, really can vary. And I think if you follow these basic rules, maybe you'll improve your throughput and have this apply to your blogs, to your books, to your YouTube content, and hopefully it works. So I wish you all luck. If you like our content, please like and subscribe. And as always, we hope you learned something.